Hello and welcome back to The Fresh Squeeze, the podcast exploring innovation in health, wellness and fitness. Today we're honoured to host Joshua Haig, the holistic lifestyle, performance and success coach behind Heroic Performance. Joshua's journey from chef to Wall Street to training pro athletes to building a whole person coaching approach has shaped his mission to help people become the best versions of themselves. And today we'll dig into his transformative framework, his definition of success, and how he blends mindset, movement and a habit for lasting growth. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Thank you, Mars. This episode is brought to you by Citrico AI. Citrico are helping private health clinics improve patient engagement, reduce no-shows, and streamline scheduling, allowing teams to spend less time on monotonous admin work and that takes time away from what matters most, their patients. To learn more, visit citricoai.com or drop a comment down in the comment section below. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Josh, love to have you here today. Your career path is fascinating. How do your experiences as a chef, a trader, a football coach, and I think that's it, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Player.
Man of many talents.
How does that all lead towards your current jobs now as a health coach?
Well, boys, thank you so much for having me on to start off. I'm excited to be here. Realistically, it's funny. I stepped back a little while ago, and you know how sometimes you like I'm not one to look back, but you kind of you reflect on the journey that's brought you to where you're at, right? Every single one of those moments, everything has taught me a piece to be able to create and do the things that I'm doing now, either for somebody else or within my own life. When I was in college in my internship, I was on the trade floor, and then that was my first kind of stab at the world in terms of, I was there in New York on Wall Street, and I was up at 4 a.m. I was on the trade floor by 5:30 to launch at 6, and I worked until 6 to finish to get back. That taught me how to wake up at 4 a.m. to be there for something and to stick to it. And it sucks getting up at 4 a.m. We talk about being a chef. That was my first job I ever had, and I did it for almost 20 years. I opened a meal prep company out here that's closed down now, but I moved out to LA to be a chef. With that, I accompanied nutrition. I'm a nutritionist as well with it. I got my certifications for that. Think about what I can do for somebody. I can not only take food, I can understand how to put it together to make it taste incredible, but oh, by the way, I can make it nutritionally sound. I can worry about macros and fat content. And most people don't understand, chefs don't know how to be healthy, and healthy people don't know how to make food taste good. That's the whole premise of my cookbook that's getting published, is putting those two things together. So that's another piece to this and putting that to the world. We talked the journey through football, right? And I made a stab at playing in the NFL through an incredible journey post-college. I wasn't going to get recruited. I found a series of connections out here that took me to Denver, Colorado, and I shadowed under a gentleman. He's now the Notre Dame head strength coach, but he was the Broncos head strength coach. His name is Lauren Landau. I give him, every podcast I'm on, I give him a shout out as one of the most influential people in my life. And I had the foresight to shadow the coaches that he was exposing me to, the Broncos head neurosurgeon, the recovery specialists. I sat in on some of the nutritional training with some of these high-level athletes because I was teammates with them. So they would let me sit in on these coaching moments that I'm just sitting there with my notebook oh my God. And I knew that I was going to need something post-football. Because I graduated college, didn't get recruited, I struggled in my life. I lived on the floor for a while with my brother in an apartment. I knew what it was going to take to get something going. Most professional athletes, they come out of college, they go right into the NFL or something like that, and then within 3 years, they're broke. They don't understand how to come out of that level of success. I did. I saw the failure. I lived the failure. So while I was there and kind of re-exposed to some of the most incredible people in the world, I then learned and absorbed as much as I could. And in between practices, and when we were doing 2-a-days and I'd be on the field in the morning and back to shadow, it was exhausting. But that New York time, getting up at 4 a.m, working until 7 or 8 at night, I learned those skill sets to be able to give me the tools to be able to excel. So now, fast forward, COVID hits. I viewed myself as a first responder, contradictory to what a lot of the world was talking about. I thought that if medical professionals had to still be on the road, I viewed myself as a medical professional in charge of people's health and wellness. And I showed up like a drum. I beat that drum every day. I never missed a day. And the roads in Los Angeles were empty. And I'm traveling with things for the kids of my clients. And I'm bringing my training table. And I'm doing massage work and PT and neuro repatterning. And all of a sudden, word gets out a little bit by little bit. And people start to talk about this incredible person who, and I abided by all the laws, and I sanitized and did the best I could, masks, and I understood I'm going into someone's home, but I prioritized them. I didn't worry about the money. I didn't worry about the business. I prioritized my people. And over the last 5 years, that has done nothing but give back to me. And so your original question is, how have all of these skill sets come together? My ability, as I would consider myself a master in this business, has been solely built around the experiences that led me here. It wasn't like I had a targeted direction. It wasn't like at 15, I was like, I'm going to be a master coach that fixes people. I just saw so many different speed bumps that I figured my way around and had the foresight to be like, I'm going to learn and I'm going to adapt and I'm going to adjust. Now, all of a sudden, I work with regenerative medicine doctors out here. I do high-level spine, shoulders, and hip PT. I have a team that sees all sorts of different people through LA, and I love it. It's a gift to get to wake up each day. I genuinely love what I do.
It's really inspiring, Josh. Honestly, your mindset is. It is.
Thank you.
It is. You're following your passion. You've had your ups and downs. It's really interesting to hear the other side of the coin, right? You hear about the success stories through college. The people are getting straight jobs into the NFL, but hearing your side of the story, okay, I've got to adapt, I've got to learn, I've got to figure out how I'm going to make my impact in this world, and you have done, and that's really, really inspiring. What I want to ask you next is, after all that, what was kind of the moment that really inspired the launch of Heroic Performance? Was it COVID? Was that the opportunity that you saw, or was it premeditated before then, and COVID helped it in a way, or what was it?
I had been training since 2014. And I had a series of clients, and realistically, I was training my brother in 2014 at a 24-hour fitness. And someone walked up to me and was like, everyone keeps asking you questions. Have you ever thought about being a trainer? And I was like, that's a thing. I didn't even my college didn't have health sciences like that. I didn't have that ability. So I pursued it. Fast forward, I was always a coach. I knew I was going to need to do something. I didn't really have an idea. COVID hit. I now had all these skills and all this stuff built up. And I'm like, all right. Then I started to get an influx of clients. So I hired my best buddy who was out here that I had met through a different gym. And I'm like, hey, come work for me. We can grow this company. And he's like, hell yeah. And Mark is one of the best human beings I've ever met. He is the nicest guy. So it was so easy for us to work together. He loved the people. I loved our people. That's all we focused on. And so Heroic Performance, and realistically, I knew nothing about branding. I knew nothing about understanding your population and who you're working. Heroic Performance, the color palette, the edging, the name is completely different than what I actually do, right? Heroic Performance, almost I love Superman, so I chose heroic. H is my name, Haig, so there's an H in there. I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought it was cool. We do wellness now. I am 35 to 40-year-old and up. I train someone who is in pain. They've lost their way, whether they're in a marriage or a divorce, or they have kids or they don't, but they are trying to regain their body. And what Heroic Performance was in that creation in COVID was a necessity versus what it is now is a designed, I market to a specific group. I speak to a specific group. I know who I am in that. And it took me a long time to figure it out because let's face it, I was a pro athlete. So I used to train athletes and I did speed gate mechanics and sports team management. No, athletes are awful to work with. I hate training athletes. If you guys ever work with athletes, don't work with athletes. They're prima donnas and their schedules suck. So anyways, the mom who likes to work out at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 days a week, she's perfect. And you bring in coffee and you just stand there and you're like, this is great. This is real nice. I hope that answered your question. A little bit roundabout, but that's the evolution.
That's brilliant. So when we were doing a bit of research, Josh, before this, we saw that your slogan on your website was passion, purpose, and pursuit. So we're interested to dive a bit deeper in that and how it resonates with you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know if there was a question to that. Passion, purpose, and pursuit actually also turned into what I would come to make my first talk. And it took me a little while to understand most people lose their why. They lose who they are. And then we talk about my specific clientele, 40 and up. We'll just say men or women. When people lose their why, you start to hear I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I hate my job. My children annoy me all the time. I'm fighting with my wife. I have no libido. I can't sleep at night. My head races, and we can continue and continue and continue. Passion, purpose, and pursuit is about helping somebody that I find, and usually when I work with somebody, they are lost when I find them. They have tried all sorts of classes. We're not even talking injury. Like I deal with very high level PT. So spine, shoulders, and hips when surgery and therapy haven't worked. You find me. I also will train a normal person that I meet who wants to lose weight. But when you start to really dive into who they are lost. They have no idea how to view their body. They have no idea that they can even dream again. Like if I ask you young boys what you're working for, I don't know your ages. I said young, but what are you working for? I want to run a 5K, or I've always dreamt of doing a triathlon. Well, then I step back and go, why can't you? There's like an 85-year-old who sets world records running triathlons. So why the hell can't you pick up pickleball safely? So passion, purpose, and pursuit, that mentality is about giving somebody the keys to their kingdom, finding what their passion is. And it takes some hard conversations. And my first intro has been notoriously known for being like a pants pull down session. Like I am exposing you for who you are and what lies under that hood. Find that passion, because I can't steer a ship in the ocean if I don't know the destination. But if I can get you to start to whittle it down, and the 5 why, have you ever heard of the 5 whys?
Yeah.
Right? You ask a why and then they answer, and then you ask another why. That's a great one. But you start to find what their real passion, what their real purpose is, what they're lost, and people will talk about, I need weight loss. Well, why? Well, I don't feel good in my body. Well, why? And you go down. Well, it's because they haven't had sex with their wife in 3 years. And I'll get people to tell me it. Or they feel insecure at work because there's a guy who overshadows them. Great. Once you start to find those real ticks in people, you can give them a target. And a lot of people who are depressed, a lot of people who are lost just don't have something to work for. And I'm not making light of any sort of mental health. And I'm not necessarily preaching this guy's quote, but Andrew Tate, I'm bringing him up. Andrew Tate made a comment at one point about a guy that someone had called, and he was, depressed and I'm going to take my life and this and that. And Andrew Tate said, go get a 6-pack, come back and have this conversation with me again. And the guy did it. He gave him a purpose. And regardless of your thoughts on Tate and his coaching and all that shit, the concept is sound. He gave this person a purpose to wake up every day. And in the process of driving for that, he made changes neurologically to start to take control of his life. That's what I do, just not like Andrew Tate. And pursuit is now we get to start to enjoy this process. I always laugh with my clients because I get to hide behind fitness. I'm a buddy. I show up, we chum around. Some nights, at 7:00 when my longest client is beaten up, I sit and have a glass of wine with her. And that's part of it. And we talk. And she talks about the stressors at work and things with her kids. But I also drive her on a Sunday and we're there kicking ass. So it's like the pursuit is the part that we want. It's the journey. It's the game, right? I always talk about finding a good season to grind. It's always a season to grind. Every day, 1% better. And so that's where that comes from, is it's kind of the stepping stones that I take someone through mentally. And it's the fire. My job is to find a fire within you and to light that.
I think it's key what you said there about you have to dig into them, and it's almost a self-awareness thing for them. They probably haven't done the digging to find that why. What's really, what's holding them back right now, and that's probably that's the trigger, right? You have to go down into them and make them aware of what's holding them back. You gave some good examples. I haven't had sex with my wife for 3 years, or
right.
Something's going on at work. That's probably the first time that they've been honest with themselves.
Correct.
And that's the moment things can start to change.
And what's really curious is I coach sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, and social engagement. These are my 5 pillars of fitness. And in turn, when I sit down with somebody on the new session, the first question I ask is, why are we here? And we hammer down as best we can. Then I have someone go through those buckets, those moments. And what's interesting is people know that they're not at norm, but they don't know how far skewed they are. And that's a normal thing that our body does subconsciously. And you guys are the same way. You're so used to living with pain, you don't know what not living with pain looks like, right? Or you'll see people who naturally sit like cockeyed. This is just how they sit now. They have no idea that they can drop their shoulder. So as you bring awareness to the body and what they're doing, sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress, social engagement, people start to have these like aha moments of just like, holy shit, I do drink every day. Oh my God, I eat like crap. Yeah, no shit. Like, none of this is like world shattering, but like giving them those tools in that moment, I've already coached them. I can walk away and they can get better today because there's that awareness. And that's where that like diving deeper into somebody really gets honed in. And I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
It's the value of having that hard conversation that people don't want to have necessarily, right? You showing up
exactly
to be introspective, that's setting the tone.
Exactly.
Going forward.
So Josh, I couldn't agree with you more with the why, but I've been in situations where I've been really motivated to, let's say, lose some weight, and I go to the gym 5 days a week. I might do it the next week, but then I lose motivation. And I was wondering how you kind of integrate habits around the nutrition, the sleep, the stress that you were talking about into the life.
That's a loaded question, buddy. Realistically, the integration has to be person by person. And I'll use nutrition because it's the hardest one as the first one. People are on a different journey because they associate a lot of emotional trauma or emotional response to eating. For some people, it's the only positive thing they get in the day. The dopaminergic, because of these bad boys, the dopaminergic burnout is a real thing. We're so inundated with positive reinforcement things, people get exhausted. So the way I bring in coaching, because you can't just uproot a tumor, you have to slowly dig out around it. And so with that concept in mind, I'll give little bits of coaching. I'll give a tidbit or 2. No carbs past 3, and you're only allowed to shop around the outside of a grocery store, other than cooking oil and like coconut oil and things like that. All of a sudden now, the person can start to implement 1 or 2 healthy habits. Well, then next week, I add 1 or 2 others. All we're looking for is 1% better each day. Think about where we're at the end of the year. The likeliness that I find somebody who comes on and is like, I'm ready to go, uproot my life, let's do this, and can stick to it, it's been like 10 people in my entire career, right? That's usually your athlete. Like, I can do it because I had to. You were getting paid to do it. There's no slack. If you don't do it, you lose your job. Where like the housewife stepping into the fitness realm, or the father of 2 who's stressed after work, he doesn't have the ability to uproot his entire life. What's 1 or 2 sleeping things that I can change? What's 1 or 2 resources I can give him about stress? What's 1 thing he can do this week to take care of himself? That's a big one. You owe me 1 hour once a week that is completely on you. Your wife has to respect you. You have to respect your significant other. You each get an hour. You can do fuck all. You can go take a nap. You can go play video games, and no one's allowed to judge you. That's a big one when we start to talk about social responsibility, your social health, right? Because people get burnout in terms of talking to people. So I think that would be my best solution there. If you're losing motivation for you, where you're like, I've started it, but I've lost motivation, you don't have a strong enough why. It's not a part of your life yet. Like for me, I go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week because it's who I am. Just like someone who does Coke 3 days a week or drinks, it's a drug, right? And it's an extreme solution, or example, but it's true. It's like the person who reads every night. I hate books. I never read. I should read. I don't read. It's who they are. I go to the gym. It's who I am. You need to find your why. You probably have your own habits that you need to change. But what do they say? 10 hours to be proficient, 10,000 hours to master. Have you put in 10,000 hours? Long pause.
I'm just thinking about doing 10,000 hours.
He's like, oh,
it's like that scene in The Hangover where he's sat at the blackjack table.
And you see the numbers, the pi signs. Yeah, it's good. That was funny.
No, Josh, I couldn't agree more, and I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I'm assuming that you're, what you're doing within the LA area, is this fairly unique?
My business model is personal trainers are not, in terms of like, there are personal trainers that show up at parks and things like that, but usually you have a set of 10 clients that you show up with and you're doing you. I tried to make a business model out of it and basically run a stable of coaches that are under my methodology and my teaching concepts. And we've done very well by that mindset. There are challenges with our business model versus a brick and mortar facility or a PT facility. But it is uncommon a lot of places. I wouldn't say just LA. I know of one other company in the nation that does it on the East Coast. The gym bros, gym guys, they're very successful with it. But they also use a van and are in very specific areas. They don't do highly dense populated places like New York City. They do like more rural towns, from my understanding, last I checked. However, so far, I've survived this long. We're doing really well. Got a good slew of clients. Couldn't be happier.
Amazing. And I mean, I saw on your website again that you do stuff with children. I mean, I've never seen that. In the UK, we definitely don't have that. And it's
really?
You're not really. I mean, you have activities, right? Sports that you play on the weekend, but nothing that actually gets children off the ground and starts thinking about their body and the types of exercises they're doing. So it's truly unique from what I've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, ironically, the youth was the thing that started me. If you really want to boil it down, I was a youth coach for a little while until I started to realize like I had a proficiency for adults. But we've had sports teams and through individuals, like we just brought on a 7-year-old fencer. He is a competitive fencer at 7 years old. But the father is smart enough to see that he's developing biases. He's unilateral, right? So everything is right-handed, which means the body starts to, just like a pitcher. But at 7 years old, no one's telling him to start to go backwards or to use left side. So in coaching youth, we're about creating that foundation, that fundamental skill set. Can you stop? Can you start? Can you turn? Can you shift laterally, right? Multiplanar, forward, sideways, rotation at a very entry level. I am hard against high-level sport training for youth athletes. What you end up seeing is the higher the level you get, the less foundational structure people have. And what was fascinating about Landau, like the guy who I taught with, when you came back from season, there was an 8 to 12 week foundational structure. And I'm talking, you have some of the best athletes in the world learning to do a plank again, learning to do a body weight squat again. We're going to do a wall sit. And the funny part was you lose your ability to. The higher the level you get, the farther away from the foundational structure you get because you're so used to being so sport specific. You need to be in the sport, but that takes you outside of your comfort, your safety structure. Our job as a coach is to bring the athlete back into that structure and then train them once you foundationally, because like most coaches, parents, things like that, don't talk tendon and ligament health. They don't talk, okay, your youth athlete needs to stop laterally. What is the knee doing? Can the hip stabilize the knee laterally? Can the ankle stabilize the knee, stabilize the hip? No, Johnny shows up and has a kink in his back, but the parent doesn't understand that laterally they have no ability to stop, but the kid plays tennis. So giving them that structural foundation, we see athletes accelerate their both ability to play as well as their safety longevity, right? Hell, I think Tommy Johns, right? You know Tommy Johns for pitching, right? For baseball. Have you ever heard of this?
I'm not a baseball fan.
Tommy Johns basically.
But baseball I can't.
This is a perfect example. Like when a pitcher throws, there's so much internal torque. There's basically a tendon that runs here, and there's a very specific surgery called the Tommy John surgery. And basically, there's so much torque going through their body, basically the shoulder can't stabilize, and in that downward rotation, it tears the tendon. That used to be only in the pros, and you would see pros walk around with this big long scar because they basically have to replace the tendon. You're seeing it into high school and almost middle school athletes now because the sports performance and the structure around them is so poor, but the kids are starting to push that level of output. Their bodies can't take the stress, and it snaps. Fascinating. Yeah. You're both like...
Is that similar to tennis elbow in a way?
Think tennis elbow on steroids. Tennis elbow is like a ache and pain boo-boo. Tommy John's is actually the tendon snaps. It literally tears off the bone. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so Josh,
go ahead.
I was just going to ask, we've spoken about your journey a lot.
Yeah.
But what's been the hardest part of getting to where you are now?
As in heroic performance or me as a person?
Let's go with you as a person.
Imposter syndrome, for sure. If I turned the camera around and showed my room, I have all sorts of papers that I've made and affirmations and statements and all sorts of stuff. I have felt like I have had imposter syndrome from day one, and I've been on the biggest stage. I'm lecturing nationally. I love what I do because I have not seen the level of success that I believe I am worth yet. But it's one of those things that you gotta let the bun cook in the oven, right? And it's just, I'm exposed to all these wonderful things, but have not felt my personal growth hit that. But everyone from the outside is like, what are you staring at? But on the other hand, that's what makes you great, right? So it's that I always have a demon over my shoulder saying, you're not doing enough. You don't deserve to be at this table, work harder. That also allows me to be at the table, right? I would say that's my biggest thing. The one on my door, it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Notre Dame. I don't know if you know American football, college football. Notre Dame, they have the play like a champion today. You walk out the door. Yep.
Fighting Irish.
Hell, very good.
Yeah, nice.
There's a sign when you walk out the tunnel, right? And everyone smacks it. It says, play like a champion today. That is like, that is the thing they're known for. I have a sign on my wall. It's my thing as I walk out the door that said, you are suffering from self-doubt while everyone around you is intimidated by your potential. That's something that'll make you think at night, right? And that's kind of, I think, personally my biggest snag, or what my biggest headache has been. And I've had to overcome a lot to be here, and believe in yourself and find the affirmations. And sometimes you just got to put it out into the world, and it's going to suck. And you just rework it and do it again. Sports has taught me that.
I think having imposter syndrome, actually, you can flip it on its head. You can force yourself to think, there must be a reason why I'm thinking this. I must be doing something which I would respect in somebody else, kind of thing. Like, I must think if somebody else is in the position I wasn't, they must be great. But just because you don't, as you said, your personal development, you didn't personally feel like you were at the level to be experiencing that. Well, you can think, I must be doing something right. I must be doing something right to be in this position where I can even think about having imposter syndrome. Yeah.
I think a part of it for me came with the financial. As I charged more and more, like the average trainer makes $55K a year in America, $55K. And that fluctuates. We'll just say that I do better than that, right? Yeah. And as I've become a master at what I do, an expert, I've charged more and more. And there's a piece of me that's like, well, shouldn't they be seeing a doctor at some point? But then the funny part is people come to see me versus the doctor. They don't trust their doctor, or their doctor didn't explain something. And I'm the one that's left holding the pieces. And so then I turn around and go, well, what is this worth? What am I worth? Because I'm standing in your living room reading your MRI to you and talking about a treatment program. You've never even left your couch. You haven't gone to a PT clinic. You didn't go see the doctor. And you trust me because you know I can fix it. And so that's internally, it's this like gear grind of like, I'm just a trainer. I'm just a coach. But on the other hand, I can do beyond your wildest belief of something for your body. So what's that worth? And that's the internal struggle for me.
Health is worth everything, right? Health is that pillar that if that health goes, everything else goes.
Correct.
Invaluable almost.
Yeah.
Josh, I want to touch on something we spoke about just before we hopped on the podcast. And I guess I'm going to tie it in with your story up to Heroic, and then now what's the future going forward? What are your plans? You talk about you haven't reached that level where you want to get to. So what is that?
What's the level I want to get to?
Well, what's your future plans to carry on growing and performing?
So what I realized, there was a problem with Heroic Performance, and a big comment is understanding business is understanding the business that you're in. And I thought I was in the business of fitness. I thought I was creating bang up training programs and changing people's lives, but I wasn't. I'm in a marketing and sales business, and the product that I'm actually selling is a trainer, is a coach. It is not the actual training program. No one gives a shit about the training program. What they do care about is the coach in terms of my actual structure of business. If I had a brick and mortar clinic, Charlie and Miles would be coming in, seeing Josh at Heroic Performance, Josh's dojo. You are buying my gym. No matter who I have show up as coaches, that's what's here. That being said, when I started to step back, and there were the wildfires that happened here, and there were some issues with my team, I stepped back and I'm like, I'm grooming coaches. And what happens is I put all this wonderful talent and energy and effort into these coaches. I fill their books. I do the marketing and sales. Then they leave, just like all trainers do. And that's very normal. And there was a huge instability in my business and a high level, like a lack of respect for me in terms of what I was trying to create. So I stepped back and I'm just like, okay, well, how can I grow this? Another piece to this is you should always be creating a business with the end in mind. When I created Heroic Performance, it was a necessity. And it was just, I love doing this. Let's help people. There was no business mindset. So I'm creating... Huh? Oh, sorry. It was super loud. Sorry. My headphones. That was boring. It's okay. I'm creating kind of this next evolution of a business with the end in mind. How can I help people? How can I reach them? How can I be more effective at it? How can I understand the actual product that I'm putting out, but also know how I'm going to finish it in 10 years? How do I sell it? Because realistically, you can't sell Heroic Performance. I can't get out of this. If I leave, the business crumbles, regardless of the client book and all that stuff, because I am the business. That's a problem. So the evolution is a company that we call Vibrant. Website is livevibrant.com. And basically it's a wellness ecosystem or a health ecosystem. And what I'm creating is supplementation that you can count on, that you can genuinely believe is what it is. Content and published works that support the supplementation. And then lastly, coaching, should the person need that and have support every step of the way. And the problem that I noticed, especially, I'm 15 years into this, I've helped how many people? People buy all sorts of supplementation. They buy all sorts of crap online. They have no idea how to put it in their life. They're taking random things that they don't trust or they don't know. And they never fix the lifestyle. They never fix their stressors. They never fix their habits. They don't know how to actually change their life. Well, how can I give someone that support for the cost of a bottle, right? And so that's what I'm doing. Creating a community that goes along with it. Like, I don't know what supplements you take, but like, let's name Thorn or Momentous or Ollie. Noct is another one, right? For sleep. You buy the supplement and good luck. You don't know if you took too much. You don't know too little. What happens if it doesn't work? What happens if you have insomnia? What happens if you're snoring? Well, what I've created is what I call a locker room. And there's a men's locker room and a women's locker room. And this locker room has content pieces that I have written. And they're about 8-page. I'm talking straight up, bare bones. Here's how I'm going to coach you. Here's how I'm going to give you an assessment. Here's the tactic to fix it. And here's a life hack to implement it every day. And they're answering real strategic problems. For women, I get hot at night and I don't know why. Well, they have a hormone imbalance. Well, how do you fix the hormone imbalance? What coaching needs to be done? What exercises do they need to change? How should they be sleeping at night? And we can continue. For men, I've lost my libido. I can't look at my wife the same. I answer that question in the content. It's real shit. It's not, some of the stuff you see online, it's like squatting 101. No, that's not the problems people face. I want this content. That's what the point of my podcast. And that's the point of the content, is to be real shit that people go through, that you can tap in. You have a question on your mind. I snore at night and I don't sleep well. I wake up and I'm exhausted. What do? right? Now, all of a sudden, I pair that with the internal stuff. You get a supplementation from me. You get the actual formula for sleep. That's our first flagship. You know that you can trust that I'm fixing the stuff on the inside. And then you have the tools. And there are also 2 larger published works, a Sleep 101 and a Nutrition 101. It's actually called Fuel 101. And these are going to be the main flagship books that are released within the company as well. And then for those who actually want a little bit of extra love, we have coaching. And I have the infrastructure and the team to be able to facilitate the coaching. So that's the future. And I believe there are very few companies that pull it all together. You see great online coaching companies. You see, and I'm not going to say great because I believe that 90% of them are not who they say they are. And as I've dove into the supplementation world, you see supplementation companies online just hawking product. And you see people releasing books, whether or not they're actually masters at what they do. So I'm trying to come at this as the coach who's on boots on the ground every day, helping people every day, pulling together all the resources that I possibly have. Like we talk about what led me to heroic performance. This is the next evolution of now I'm a master. Up to heroic performance, I was floundering and figuring it out. Heroic springboarded me forward. I'm now able to create something beautiful in this next company that genuinely can help someone. And I believe that once it takes traction and people start to understand that, like, I'm just here to support you, and it's reasonably priced in terms of our bottle. Our sleep supplement is going to be $60 for the month, right? Money back guarantee after 30 days. What's not to try, right? And you get access to everything, right? And I don't know if you guys know Alex Hormozy, but I'm following his model a little bit in terms of free, right? I want people to have the access. If you want extra love, you can pay for coaching, but I want people to be able to do this on their own. It's not rocket science. So that's it.
I think it's such an important part of our health. I'm personally trying to get it myself as these, science-based practices are coming out. It makes you realize how recovery and sleep are, if not the most important thing in your life. So, and I think it's brilliant, Josh, that you're there to support people in that process and that learning and getting more healthy as a human.
Thank you. I see you with the whoop. Don't worry. I saw that. Yeah.
So
here's one interesting one for you, for both of you. I just got about a week ago, I got PEMF, or grounding sheets. So pulse electromagnetic frequency. So basically they're grounding sheets. So fun fact, I knew Whoop was going to be what it was. I'm a founding member in 2016. I have yet to pay for a Whoop. It says it on my little Whoop. I'm a diamond. I've had 2,800 recoveries stored in Whoop. And there's a little thing at the top. I was member 316. It's like my claim to fame. That being said, I have all this data, right? I'm like, I'm going to try these grounding sheets. And my family was like, you're stupid. Why are you paying $150 for bed sheets? I got it from the Grounding Co. I'm a little plug here, unsolicited plug. I can tell you, I saw my heart rate variability and resting heart rate. I saw the change, and it was the moment it started. And so it's those types of little sciences, or the little hacks are starting to come out that I think really can make a difference for people. And for someone like yourself, right? Yeah, I've been figuring out recovery. I don't know what to do. Something like that makes a world of difference. So, fun fact.
Yeah, and actually, $190. I've seen 8 Sleep. That's quite popular at the moment.
8 Sleep is different. So what I'm talking about is bed sheets. You lay them over it. They plug into the wall outlet, and it's the equivalent of grounding. Do you know what grounding is?
It's the frequency, right?
So the earth gives off a negative electrical ion, right? And if I go stand in the forest and it actually drops the electrical current within your body. It alkalizes your cells. In turn, they've created bed sheets that you lay on that when you plug it into the grounding segment of your outlet, it gives you the same response as being out standing in sand, right? What you're talking about with 8 Sleep is basically this temperature regulated bed. And what it does is it auto regulates your bed. You should be at specific temperatures based off specific cycles of your sleep cycle, right? You have awake, light, REM, and deep, 4 sleep cycles that you go through, and you go through them multiple times through the night, usually 3 if you get good sleep. That being said, at each one, it's like you should drop your temperature to fall asleep, right? Because your brain needs to cool down. As you're getting into REM sleep, it starts to heat you up as you're coming out of deep sleep. So it's basically a drop, raise, drop, raise. And 8 sleep regulates that. So it plugs in, it monitors on your phone, it gives you the same stuff that like Whoop would with like heart rate variability and things like that. But the main spice to 8 sleep is that it's monitoring your biometric and regulating sleep temperature for your optimum temperature too, because Miles is different than Charlie, which is different than a postmenopausal woman. And so he might need to be at 68 degrees. I need to be at 65 and Charlie needs to be at 71. Great. And it regulates that for you.
It's exciting, isn't it? All this new technology that's helping us monitor and improve our health. I think it's brilliant.
Dude, the hard part is figuring out what actually works. What can you trust? Because I went on for like these grounding sheets. I saw them. I've wanted them for a while. I started to dive down the like rabbit hole of like, is this shit? I ended up finding people online who actually on YouTube were doing with a, what's the little electric current monitor that you hold it? There's a name for it. But basically it tests electrical current that you can put it like, you can take it and put it on like a live piece of wire and it'll tell you what the current is. They would set it up so that it was testing their body's current, that it reads at about 6, hertz, watts, whatever the measurement is. And then they would put their hand on the actual grounding sheet and you'd watch the number drop to 0. So you would see it. Like, it's fascinating. Sorry, I geek out on this shit.
No, I want to read more into that. But this isn't a grounding podcast, so that's.
I'll tell you what.
Anyways, continue.
We've taken a lot of your time, so we'll just go on to our last 2 questions, which we ask everyone, right? And going back to Vibrant, if you had a magic wand, what would you fix as one of your biggest pain points to grow that company? And bring all your brilliant stuff that you're doing to your clients and to your patients.
For Vibrant, right? Seeing it's the new company, it's up and coming. I think, and part of it is I'm scorned so much from Heroic Performance's failures in marketing. I've had some major issues with different marketing companies and been scammed and all sorts of stuff. I am excited and nervous about the marketing and distribution of a product versus a service. There are some easy pieces to it. And I hope, and I have a young lady who I talk her up all the time, who's my back end of my socials and things like that, who runs a holistic skincare company. And we go back and forth heavily. She talks about how easy it's going to be. And we have our strategies in place. So my magic wand is I hope that when push comes to shove, everything comes to forefront. Next year, we finally are selling. And after the course of the year, I can, and obviously it's not going to be perfect and I've got to figure out the budgets and all that good stuff, but I'm hoping that it can be a little more seamless and a little more straightforward in terms of the marketing and sales side of things than Heroic Performance has, because that has been a struggle. It has been difficult. I've learned a lot, but I'm hoping this next business can be an evolution of that. So that'll be my magic wand, is that can be easy.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are going through the same journey as you and do struggle with that, especially in the evolving landscape of the internet and, social media. It is a struggle, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and then the last one, Josh, was advice for maybe someone slightly younger than you wanting to, listening to your story and wanting to do something fairly similar, go on an entrepreneurial route and help people become healthier and fitter. What would your advice be to them?
Find a mentor, but a mentor you don't have to pay for. I believe a true mentor, like if someone reached out to me and was like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Will you help me and have a call once a month? Absolutely. No matter how big I get. Absolutely. I believe that we live in a realm of these like mentorships have been coined. Pay $5,000 a month and I'm going to work with you as a group. I don't believe that's a true mentor. I believe that's just someone who's running a business and you're getting scammed. Yeah, there's information. Yeah, you should pay for information at some point. But like for someone who's up and coming, you should have a mentor. Everything I learned, Wall Street, cooking, nutrition, the personal training, PT, every single one of them I learned through what's that called? Where they used to do it in the olden days, apprenticeship. I learned as an apprentice. I sat next to the master. When I was on Wall Street, it was next to the executive vice president of the company. And he showed me how to do the trading in the different, like Singapore, France, and he sat there with the computer and worked it. He didn't charge me for that, right? When I was a chef, I spent 15 to almost 20 years in a kitchen. Of that, 10 of them, the guy taught me how to hold a knife, how to clean a thing of chicken. I believe that true masters of what they do are going to want to give their skill sets to a young person, to someone up and coming. They're not going to look to charge. And I believe that if people are doing that, you need to think twice. I do think there's value. Those in the mentorships and stuff, there is value to them and they do have knowledge. I just don't think that that's the right path for a young person struggling. Beyond that, put it out into the world. Who gives a shit if it works? Try. Most people fail at the door. They don't actually ever step through.
What
Find
advice?
a mentor, take action. I think that's some good advice.
That's it. That's it, baby.
Josh, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, it's been fascinating. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure the listeners have as well.
Good. Thank you for having me, and enjoy your grounding bed sheets.
I'm going to be up all night reading about...
Yep.
Can't wait.
Have a good one, boys.
Thanks.